for say $40 or $50, it seems to be a really popular option for people to get into the market, but with a lesser of a risk.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's certainly been a factor in letting people get in at a lower price point to boxes that like they're not going to get into that box at any other level, but they can get into it for $50 or $100 for a chance to pull one of the big cards out of that box. It's definitely a factor, and it's been a part of the growth in the last 18 months. A big part of that growth has been the new breakers coming in to the space and sort of making it harder to get hold of a box, because now there's a bunch more people trying to get a box to put in their break.
Interesting. So in a nutshell, elevator pitch, what do Cherry do? We're talking breaks, we're talking basketball cards. Say in a nutshell, what does Cherry offer?
Well, we started with just boxes of cards, packs of cards, but now it's boxes, packs, breaks, singles. We do grading, or we help you get your card graded when the graders are open and grading. It's been quite a struggle the last few months, but things are starting to come back now. I start getting tagged in people's grading posts, which is great. Repacks is something that we've moved into that we talked about earlier. We're into Pokemon cards, of course, other trading card games, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic. So it's really grown from a very basketball card centric at the very beginning to all sorts of cards. Still, however, in Australia at least, we are very heavily skewed towards basketball cards here in Australia. I'm pretty sure baseball is the number one sports card in the States still.
Wow.
But for Australians, it's NBA cards all day.
Yeah. Because I remember in the mid '90s, I collected basketball cards. I also collected NRL cards, but basketball cards was huge. Especially Upper Deck. Upper Deck just had that. They're a quality brand. The Michael Jordan cards you'd get from those sets back in the day. But I knew heaps of kids that would collect those cards that didn't even like basketball.
Yes. You're right. It was a real fad in the 90s. It was, there were people, who never watched a game of basketball, but they would buy the cards. Some of those old Upper Deck, just the base cards of Jordan, I'm thinking of one in particular, the photography on it is just like, why wouldn't you want to have this one of him sailing through the air? Like, fantastic photo that they chose for the card. And it's just, who wouldn't want to? You pull that out of the pack at school and you're like king of school for the day.
The king of the playground for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Then you have the kids at school giving you those trades like, I'll give you all of my cards for your one card.
Yeah. I can remember making a couple of trades like that. I think I stopped collecting right before Kobe hit the market. So I stopped collecting at precisely the wrong time. Stop collecting. I wish I had kept going for another couple of years. But whenever I see an old folder in the attic, I'll have a flick through it and be like, maybe this time, maybe there's just one, maybe there's one in there, but no.
Nothing there. Just on you talked about grading, so I've never gone through the grading process with cards. I have with we were talking earlier with action figures.
Yeah.
And I've got a whole bunch I want to send off. So talk about that a little bit more. So you use BGS, is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
You got it? Yeah.
So we will. Dale takes care of that. Dale and the guys in his team. So there's a form you can fill out online. You send your cards into us. They are prepped by the guys there to send over to Beckett, and depending on the speed that you want to go with, there's sort of there's the slow and there's the slower at the moment. When things are sort of back to normal, and we're able to open up, more of a range, that'd be fantastic. And they go over to Beckett, then they're graded over there and sent back slabbed once they're all processed.
Yeah, I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is just my opinion, not an evidence-based one. I imagine the people that were accumulating a lot of cards over, I guess, the COVID period, that were, buying cards cheaper and then wanting to grade them to on-sell them, due to the backlog of, especially at especially at PSA, I heard that PSA were getting 1 million cards a week at some stage. Yeah. I imagine that people would have sent their cards over in a bit of a boom, and which I guess this is a good segue into my next question. But I guess by the time they've got them back, there's been a bit of a lull in the market. Things have kind of gone back to normality. So it's a two-pronged question. So do you agree with that? And then the next question is, what are your thoughts on the current market?
Yeah, 100% agree. That it contributed to. What it meant was, and it's something that if you're really plugged into the sports card content online, you would have read a recent report by the guy who founded StockX called Josh Luber. He wrote a report on the state of the card market a couple of weeks ago. One of the things that he highlighted, which has contributed to the current sort of dip and now a plateau in the card market, is the glut of cards getting graded jammed up the gears of much of the market, because a lot of the market is a lot of it is about that buy cards in bulk of this player, rookie cards of this player, send them off for grading. And grading is, if we go back to 2019, grading is quite cheap per card. You can have it back, if you're in the States, you can have it back relatively quickly for a very small fee per card. And you're able to list those cards very quickly on eBay and turn those cards over, get through them quickly and get them into people's hands wherever they want to go. When the graders, had to stop because of the volume of those sorts of cards getting submitted. I mean, I heard numbers from some of the aggregators in the States, guys who just collect cards together, that if they had a big aggregating group in California or somewhere like that, they were sending off, some of them, hundreds of thousands of cards per month. And this is just one group of collectors. So, millions of cards were arriving, and they just were unfortunately not ready for it at all. And putting the pause on and just that volume of cards jamming up the gears so that people aren't able to make those speculative, purchases, or, I'm going to hold on to them and sit on them for 5 years or whatever. That jammed up a lot of money that would have otherwise been moving quite quickly prior to sort of 2020. Yeah.
I guess like any investment strategy, they have their peaks and troughs, don't they? It's just part of the market cycle.
Yeah, that's right. I think what I don't know. I'm not as plugged into the day-to-day market stuff. I'm always sort of head down in what people want to talk about in relation to cards. But it feels like it's in a plateau at the moment, and it's becoming it's what I imagine the team at Fanatics will want to do when they take over the card game, in 2025 or 26, I think it is. They will want to make cards even more mainstream, because they've made a massive investment they'll want to start seeing some return on that pretty soon. So I think what we're going to see is that the cards become more mainstream, more normal, in going into the future.
Yeah, very interesting. You got an opinion on that, Chris?
I just think it's just an interesting time to be a collector. Like, who knows where it's going to go? You've seen some of those high-end cards have been selling in the millions. Well, imagine hitting one of those now. Like, there's so many collectible rookies in the NBA at the moment. Maybe not Ben Simmons cards. I don't know whether they're going to be worth that much in the future. But young Giddey, I'll tell you what, I'd be wanting to get on to Josh Giddey at the moment because as an Aussie, like Paddy Mills is another one, like those Tyson Beck ones, they've already doubled, tripled in value. There's enough collectors out there that the market is still pretty strong, I reckon.
Yeah. I think too with the Paddy Mills you just suggested and Giddey and Ingles and all those sort of Ben Simmons hopefully gets his act together because I don't even know what's going on there, but he will come good. And when we were growing up collecting sports cards, you had the Shaqs and Jordans and Magic Johnson and all these superstars that were just so far out of your normality, right? But now we've got such a good crop of Aussies that are not only just competing over there, they're actually stars within their roles in their teams, right? So Ben Simmons was dubbed the next LeBron James, right? He was drafted number 1, wasn't he?
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Drafted number 1. You've got Giddey who's just blitzing out. Paddy Mills is on fire every game. We've just won a bronze medal in the Olympics. Basketball just seems like a sport that is thriving, and it's thanks to these, I guess, the leaders of that sport. And that stems back to, like, Andrew Gaze played in NBA, but he wasn't a standout, right? Shane Hill, he wasn't a standout. Luke Longley was probably the biggest standout, but he was, I guess he was blessed to be playing in Michael Jordan's team. But now you've got players now that are just really killing it over there, which is so exciting for the sport, and that trickles down to the collecting game as well.
But it all feeds back as well to the success of the NBL and the imports of the NBL. That's why we've got so many good Aussies over there, like Ben Simmons being second generation from Cecil Simmons. Is it Cecil Simmons? Yeah. And there's a couple of other ones as well, I think, that's come through. Is Matisse Thybulle, was he a second generation?
Don't know if he's a second generation, to be honest.
There's definitely a couple, but I think it's a pretty cool thing that success of the 90s and late 80s, early 90s of the NBA, we then got all the players over here in the NBL who had long careers, like, Simmons, Leroy Loggins, then they've had children here, and hopefully those children will then eventually fall into those sort of star roles as well.
Yeah, it's really exciting to be. It's almost like the 90s are back again at the moment. That's what it's felt like in the last sort of 18 months. It's a shame that NBL hasn't had some kind of cards out, in the last year or so. That would have been fantastic to have LaMelo cards for people to collect last year. It would be an alternate sort of rookie card of his if that was out. I'm sure they're working on something, most likely. The NBL's just, I think, they've done a fantastic job, especially with that import program, the Next Stars program, I think, which is one of the ones LaMelo came down on, to try and make Australia a little an NBA outpost, or a legitimate sort of league that people in the States can go, oh wow, I could go down there for a couple of seasons, or you get people like Bogut coming down to play a season with the Kings when he finishes, or Delhi, I think, is this year is playing one of the teams. So that's a pretty good barometer, I guess, of them having done a good job.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've
got Bryce Cotton over here in the West, who is as good as any Wildcat I've ever seen. So I don't know whether That's the crazy thing is people say, well, he wouldn't quite make the cut in an NBA franchise. You think, gee whiz, he is so good. They said he's too short to play NBA.